Hey everybody, and welcome back to AP Euro. So today we're going to be conquering chapter 13, which is the Reformation and the Wars of Religion. So basically this is the time where Europe broke into a ton of messy front groups and spent 100 years fighting about it. So let's go ahead and make it super simple. So part one, why did the Reformation happen? So first of all, why did people want reforms in the Catholic Church? Your answer is going to be because the church was acting shady. And you might ask, what kind of shady? Well, first of all, we had these things called indulgences, which is a vocab term if you want to highlight, if you're taking notes, which is basically buying your way out of hell.
Audrey, did you make this slime? Why'd you put so much glue? Do you want to get fired? Then redo it. All right, $40.
Next, we have simony, which is also a vocab term, highlight, which is paying money to get a church job. And you didn't have to be qualified or anything. If you just had the most amount of money and you were like, yo, I woke up today and I want to be a priest, I'm going to go ahead and buy a job. That's simony. Pluralism. This is when priests had many jobs, but they weren't showing up to them.
Lyndall's not here because she's just got the flu or something.
I actually didn't have the flu.
So think of these as like the church's side hustles. So the Renaissance has spread humanism, which is basically reading old classical texts and thinking for yourself. And people like Erasmus started dragging the Catholic Church for being corrupt. So now in 1450 we have Gutenberg and his printing press creation. And the printing press is kind of like TikTok because it made the church's corruption go viral. So now meet the reformers, the squad that breaks away. Martin Luther, please, for the love of God, do not think this is Martin Luther King Jr., the one who stood up for like activist rights. This is not the same thing. That would be so bad for you, okay? Don't do it. But anyways, Martin Luther, he was in Germany, okay? He was based off in Germany, if that's all you want to know about him. So what did he do in 1517? This is important. He dropped the 95 Thesis, which basically was a public clapback against the Catholic Church's indulgences. So when you have an SAQ in it, ask, what did Martin Luther stand for in his 95 Thesis? Well, basically, these were his main points. Was salvation by faith alone, which means you can't buy your way into heaven. The Bible should have more authority over than the Pope, which means everybody should read scripture, and he even translated it into German vernacular language. So know that Martin Luther, he translated the Bible into German. And when was his 95 Thesis? In 1517. Okay, so here's a little memory trick for when you think of Martin Luther, think faith, not fake. So now we're going to move on to John Calvin, who is in Geneva.
You are Amelia Mignonette Thermopolis Rinaldi, Princess of Geneva.
And Calvin takes things to the extreme with this thing called predestination. So highlight predestination, which is basically the definition that God already knows if you're going to heaven or hell or not. Sorry, that he just knows.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I have the mind of a master. I have the mind of so creative like that.
So he builds a super strict city in Geneva and spreads ideas to Huguenots. In France, Presbyterians. In Scotland, and Dutch Calvinists. The memory trick for this one is Calvin equals God's got receipts on your fate. Now let's move on to the most famous king for his 6 wives, Henry VIII.
Just found out I'm chopped.
Of course, Henry VIII was in England. And God forbid, our guy Henry, he just wanted a divorce.
As far as I'm concerned, our marriage is at an end.
Pope said no.
Brilliant. No divorce. Apparently, it's against God's will or something like that. So that has absolutely thrown a spanner in the works. I don't know what I'm going to do now.
And Henry said, fine, I'll make my own church. And what allowed that to happen? The Act of Supremacy in 1534. That is what made him the head of the Church of England. So memory trick, Henry equals divorced dad. Part 3, which is the Catholic comeback, aka the Counter-Reformation. So the Catholic Church wasn't just going to turn their shoulder and look the other way. They launched a Counter-Reformation. They launched the Council of Trent in 1545 all the way through 1563. Basically, which was a big meeting, which is they banned indulgent sales but kept teaching strong Catholic faith. Next off, we have the Jesuits, founded by Ignatius Loyola. So think of Jesuits as Catholic super soldiers, missionaries, teachers, defenders of the faith. Next, we had the Index of Prohibited Books. So, you know how on your phone you have blocked contacts? Well, kind of, this is, imagine the church's official block list. Luther, Calvin, banned. So here's your memory trick for this one. It's Counter-Reformation equals cleanup, power up, and ban books. So now we're going to get to the drama, the wars of religion. So now comes the chaos, and think of Europe as a good old Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It's a good old reality show. So what's going on in France? Well, we have the Catholics versus the Protestants. Okay, an important thing to think about is whenever you say Huguenots on a test, Huguenots is only a French term. So when you see Huguenots, it is French Calvinists. If there's a question for some reason about like Spain and Huguenots, don't correlate them together, okay? Huguenots is only a French thing. So what was the messiest moment? That has to be the St. Bartholomew Day massacre in 1572. This is when thousands of Protestants were killed. And it finally ended with the Edict of Nantes in 1598. This is where Henry VI says Protestants can exist with limited rights. So your trick for this one is Nantes equals not dead yet. So what's going on in Spain? Well, we have Spain versus England, and Philip II of Spain tries to invade Protestant England. With who? Well, with the Spanish Armada in 1588. Hearing this in Spain versus England, Elizabeth was ruling England at the time, and Elizabeth claps back. And because she claps back, England wins and Spain takes the L. So your trick for this one is Armada. Think of Armada, God, air, bald. So now we have the Dutch Revolt, which is when the Calvinists in the Netherlands fight Catholic Spain, and they eventually win independence as the Dutch Republic. Now we have the 30 Years' War in 1618 through 1648, which starts as Catholic versus Protestant inside the Holy Roman Empire, but soon it's just basically a world war and everybody's fighting everyone. Most importantly, it ends with the Peace of Westphalia in 1648. And what was so important about the Peace of Westphalia? It recognizes Calvinism, it weakens the Holy Roman Empire, and it strengthens France. So your trick for this one is when you see Westphalia, Westphalia equals West is best, France comes out stronger. So here's your outro / recap for chapter 13. So when you get a SAQ with causes of what happened in the Reformation, you can say church corruption plus humanism plus printing press. And reformers who are super important are Luther, who was very passionate about faith, Calvin, who did predestination, and Henry VIII, which is divorce and politics. And when it asks you for Catholics' response, we actually had an SAQ over that the other day, but when they say, what was the Catholics' response to like Luther's Indulgences 95 Thesis, you can say that they pulled up with the Council of Trent, Jesuits, and Index. Important wars, you have the Edict of Nantes, the Spanish Armada, the Dutch Revolt, the Peace of Westphalia, and that's the Reformation in plain English. So thanks for joining. Bye, good luck.